broken down in graphic format. The center, Young, off to Spurs, and that future first-round pick and 2 second-round picks in exchange for DeRozan, who is reportedly agreeing to a 3-year, $85 million contract. And for more on this, we welcome in the coach, Avery Johnson, who's been a busy man just like us. Coach, so DeMar DeRozan goes to the Bulls, which was the rumor. There was some thoughts earlier in the day that he was actually going to talk to the Clippers, but it is the Bulls that are in here. What do you think of the deal?
Love this deal for the Chicago Bulls. What a nice offseason that they're having in terms of remaking, especially their backcourt. First of all, they do a signing trade for Lonzo Ball. Really didn't have to give up much. Gave him a really cap-friendly type deal. He didn't break the bank. You already have Zach LaVine under contract. Hopefully he'll win the gold medal with our USA team. But now DeMar DeRozan, experience, it gets him back to the Eastern Conference where he had a tremendous amount of success with the Toronto Raptors, gets him out of the West. And that kind of 1-2-3 punch of Ball, LaVine, and now DeRozan, very formidable in the Eastern Conference. And I think this move couldn't be consummated unless Lonzo Ball really became a really good three-point shooter, because DeMar DeRozan doesn't shoot many threes, but he's a hard-nosed driver. He has a really excellent mid-range game. So again, because of Ball's development, LaVine's growth, this is a really nice fit. Tall, lean machine in all three of these guys. Solid offseason so far for the Chicago Bulls.
Billy Donovan wasting no time as they get right down to it. So that was the next thing I was going to ask you about. I mean, quickly, Lonzo Ball, then they get Alex Caruso. Now they're locking up DeMar DeRozan. So, I mean, quick work here by Billy Donovan.
Yeah, quick work by the entire front office. And then when a guy like Caruso, you know, who won a championship with the Lakers, he's very familiar with coming off the bench, playing behind, you know, superstar guys and LeBron James. So he'll fit in really nicely. If somebody has to, you know, sit out a game for whatever reason, injury, then you can insert Caruso in the lineup and they can just keep everything going. But I really like the size of all these guys. Everybody's over 6'6", really long. You can switch pick and rolls. You can really mix up things. You can post up DeRozan. You can play Lonzo or DeRozan, LaVine, and pick and roll. Just multiple players that can all pass, dribble, and shoot the ball. DeRozan, not so much, as I alluded to earlier, a three-point shooter, but very capable, coming off a season where he averaged 21 points a game.
And Chicago just missed the playoffs, just missed the postseason this past season. So now that they make the acquisitions that they've made, how much more improved are they in your mind in terms of going into next season and looking to take that next step into the postseason?
Well, I think they take a jump, Jeremy, similar to what the Knicks did. You know, the Knicks came out of nowhere. They were a fourth seed in the Eastern Conference. Look for Chicago to take a similar jump. But you still got teams like Brooklyn, if they're healthy. They're one of the Milwaukee. I believe they're the top two teams, Milwaukee and Brooklyn in the Eastern Conference. We don't know what's going to happen with Philadelphia. Atlanta now is a top 4 team in the Eastern Conference. So look for Chicago to try to push somewhere around that 5th seed next season. I don't know if they're going to break in the top 4, but really like this roster. The versatility, flexibility, the guys that can play on both ends of the floor. They're two-way players. So Coach Billy Donovan's got a whole lot more to work with this year than what he had last year.
Let's look at the other side just quickly, Coach. Get your thoughts on San Antonio's return here. Thaddeus Young, the center, and then they get, you know, potentially 3 draft picks out of this. So what do you think of the return for Spurs?
Well, the Spurs seem like, you know, now they're in just a complete rebuilding mode because, you know, DeMar DeRozan's signing trade, you know, obviously they lost Rudy Gay, signed with the Utah Jazz. So 2 of their veteran players. So I think this is going to be nothing but about a youth movement. Look for a guy like Thaddeus Young to potentially get bought out of his contract, because I know at this stage of his career, he's not going to want to go and play with a team that's going to be hovering in the lottery. He wants to play on a playoff team. So look for a guy like him. Normally situations like that is tailor-made for a buyout so that he can go join potentially a playoff team.
Yeah, Spurs finishing 10th in the West last year, 33-39. Coach, I know it's been a busy afternoon for you. Thanks for hopping on with us to talk about the latest news. DeMar DeRozan headed to the Chicago Bulls. And it's been a busy day. I mean, it's been a busy 24 hours as free agency's really kicked in for the NBA. And just over the last hour, we've talked about, well, a few deals. Steph Curry signing the 2-year, $215 million extension with the Warriors. Bulls getting DeRozan in the sign-in trade, and Carmelo Anthony and Malik Monk headed to the Lakers. Another busy day as free agency gets going fast and furious in the NBA.
Well, back to our breaking news here as NBA free agency is underway. Kyle Lowry has agreed to a 3-year deal, according to Adrian Wojnarowski, and will be a part of a sign-and trade to the Heat, as the Raptors are expected to get Goran Dragic, a move that fits with the contracts. Also, we've got news coming in that Duncan Robinson has agreed to a 5-year, $90 million contract to stay in Miami, and according to Woj, it's the largest deal for an undrafted player. Also, Woj is reporting just in, All-Star guard Chris Paul has agreed to stay on a new 4-year, $120 million deal to stay in Phoenix. That's not a surprise as he opted out of the $44 million this upcoming season.
All about length on his contract.
Yes.
Opt out and add 3 more years on.
And these are guaranteed dollars that we're talking about in the NBA.
It's good to be Chris Paul and Duncan Robinson right now.
Yes, it is. And Bobby Marks joins us now with what you're hearing now with the Heat as they kind of keep the guys, the Jimmy Butlers and the Duncan Robinsons long term, and then bring in Kyle Lowry. How does this work in your mind and when you look at the numbers?
Yeah, this is kind of what we thought it was going to be when they acted as a team that was going to go over the salary cap with the Goran Dragic option yesterday. And when you look at it, here's what this is it, right? Yep. Lowry, the Robinson number is going to be a little bit maybe higher than that $16 million. They're over the cap, as we thought. The question's going to be, they're not even in the luxury tax. So they still have that $9.5 million mid-level exception to go out and use a player. And they just signed or talking with Jimmy Butler on an extension. So this is what we talked about, over the cap. They get Kyle Lowry now. They bring back Duncan Robinson. Now what do you do with that $9.5 million mid-level exception?
That cap right now is $112 million, right?
$112 million, yeah. That's the thing to keep an eye on because it only increased 3%. So very small.
And then the luxury tax we get in the
136
million.
And the hard cap's 143. So that, with the Lowry trade, they are hard capped now. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that 143 number, not to exceed that. Okay, in the last hour, we're also talking about the future of DeMar DeRozan. The Bulls have been very active, agreeing to a sign and trade, bringing in Lonzo Ball, 4 years, $85 million, reported by Adrian Wojnarowski. Now, Brian Windhorst is reporting potentially the Spurs moving DeRozan and another sign and trade to Chicago. How does that work? Yeah, we've got a lot of moving parts here, and I think when you look at a team like the Bulls, right? We'll pull them up there. This is kind of where their roster is, and when we look at, we're going to put Lonzo into that mix, right at that $20 million. Might be a little bit higher. Right. So we're going to take him and we're going to take out Tomas Satoransky. We'll pull him out. All right, they're acting as a team over the salary cap. Okay, so now you're looking at a player like DeMar DeRozan, that his number was probably in that $20 million number. So how do you get within 125%? You have Thaddeus Young, you have Al-Farouq Aminu. The one guy to keep an eye on, Lauri Markkanen. They have his bird rights. He's a restricted free agent. Can you do a sign and trade with potentially Markkanen, maybe even a guy like Aminu? And then that brings DeMar DeRozan to Chicago. And we talked about the last segment with Zach LaVine. Yeah. Renegotiation. If you can get Lonzo Ball and DeMar DeRozan, I think Zach LaVine's going to wait another year to sign that big.
Changes his viewpoint,
It changes everything because you've improved the roster without using cap space on himself.
And back to the original conversation about the cap only going up 3%. That could change in the next year, and then you have more flexibility.
It actually, the projection for next year is 119, which is a nice little bit of it's not great, but it's still a $6 million boost compared to $3 million this previous year.
Also updating our big story here. Chris Paul agreeing to a 4-year, $120 million contract, according to Woj. So He's off the board. Mike Conley agreeing to an extension.
They're
3
coming
years,
off. It's coming quick.
$72 million. He's off the board.
These two players are the next to keep an eye on. Dennis Schroeder, Spencer Dinwiddie. We knew that once Lowry came off the board, the point guards kind of start to fall into place here.
So we're talking about the top 3 point guards already off the board.
All
Chris
off the
Paul,
board.
Mike Conley, and Lon.